The Yankees beat the Rangers, and Will Warren has himself a game. Is he finally what we all thought he was going to be? We're going to discuss that next on a live edition of Locked On Yankees.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So as I said, I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. If you're new to the show and you don't know who I am, I've been hosting this show for nearly 7 years now, started in 2018, and a lot of stuff has happened since then. I've written for ESPN, Baseball Prospectus, The Hardball Times, and a bunch of other different places. And now I do this. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to Locked On Yankees on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified whenever our videos go live. So today's show will be previewing tonight's matchup between Ryan Yarbrough and Jacob deGrom. We'll be updating you on that later in the show. I'll also be letting you know how the many injured players for the Yankees are doing in their rehab assignments. But first, let's discuss Tuesday's win against the Rangers. Was anyone else pleasantly surprised by this? Because I don't know. I feel like my co-host kind of scared me and made me think that Texas was going to be a lot tougher than they were. No offense to Texas, but I really thought coming into this game, okay, this is, a pretty good opponent, a good test for the Yankees. This is possibly a team that they can face in the playoffs. And the Yankees did a pretty good job on Tuesday night. And the big story of the night, Will Warren. What a performance by Will Warren. I have to give it to him. This is the third good start in a row. Like, these are good starts from him. And last night was no exception. I know some people will probably, poo-poo the 5 2/3 innings, but 10 strikeouts in those 5 2/3 innings, not giving up a run in those 5 2/3 innings, looking really confident on the mound. He threw 101 pitches. He made it into the 6th. His ERA is down to 4.05. I just like that he's putting together better starts. He's not having the issues that plagued him early in the season where he couldn't finish guys off. I mean, he was finishing them off with the 10 strikeouts last night. He made some of those guys in Texas's lineup look extremely silly, whether they were swinging at the ball or looking at the ball as it crossed over the plate for strike 3. It was amazing to watch Will Warren do that. And you could see the more into the game he got, the more confident he became. And yeah, the 6th inning, little rough. They had to take him out of there, but well done by Will Warren. And hopefully he just keeps getting better, because when you look at the Yankees rotation right now, they're still waiting for Luis Gil. I'll update you on that in segment 2. I guess they're still waiting for Marcus Stroman. I'll also update you on that in segment 2. But when you look at what the rotation is right now, Will Warren is stepping up and becoming your 3A along with Clark Schmidt, right? He's one of those guys where now, after these last 3 starts, you're not saying to yourself, oh, it's Will Warren. Now you're kind of thinking, oh, it's Will Warren. Let's see what he does. So I'm liking that a lot. Now the offense, Ben Rice, home run and a sac fly. The home run was, wow, off Patrick Corbin. And that was the other thing. We were a little worried about coming into the series against their pitching, because their pitching had done so well. And the Yankees managed to score 5 runs off Texas's pitching. So Ben Rice hits that big home run into the second deck and right, gets the sac fly. Volpe hits a big double. Judge hits his 16th home run of the year. Apparently it was the shortest home run of his career, which I think it's funny that people had to point that out. But I guess because you're so used to Aaron Judge hitting 450-foot tanks that when he kind of flicks it over to right field and barely gets across the fence, I guess it's news. But let's talk about someone else in the lineup, because everyone's talking about Judge and his average being above 400, of course, because it's a big deal. It's now May 21st and he's still above 400. But can we talk about Paul Goldschmidt? Because when is this man slowing down? It hasn't happened yet. Everyone was thinking, oh, okay, he's just having a good first month. He'll slow down. When's the slowing down happening? He's batting 339. It seems like he's always doing something in a game. If he's not driving someone in, he's getting on base and he's being driven in by someone behind him. It's incredible to me what this man has done coming over to the Yankees. It's like he's reborn in a way. Although it kind of happened at the end of last season, because as we spoke about when Goldschmidt came over to the Yankees, he had a rough, like almost 3/4 of a season, and then he picked it up the last couple of months in 2024. And now he seems to be unstoppable. It's amazing. And another person we need to talk about on the other end of things in the offense, Austin Wells is down to 204. I think it's unnoticed because the team is winning and other guys are hitting when they need to hit. But I think that if the Yankees go into a bit of a funk and Wells if he keeps coming up in big situations and he keeps coming up short and his average keeps dropping and dropping, it's going to be a problem. So he's going to need to start hitting because it feels different than last year. Last year, Austin Wells had a lot of bad luck for the first few months of the season. It just seemed like he was hitting the ball at everyone. He was hitting the ball well. He was making good contact and the balls just weren't dropping for him. You know what I mean? And this season just feels different. So hopefully he can get better and start hitting. Again, it's not as noticeable because other guys in the lineup are picking him up. You have Volpe, who's up and down, up and down. He got the double Tuesday night. But Wells has got to pick it up just a little bit. Let's discuss the bullpen. So the bullpen had to come in after Warren left 5 2/3. Everyone was great in the bullpen except for Ian Hamilton. You know, if it weren't for Ian Hamilton, the Yankees would have shut out the Rangers last night. Devin Williams looked good despite that double that he gave up. He was fine. It didn't fall apart. He's picking things up again. Seems to be on the right track. Mark Leiter Jr. also looked good. Came in right after Warren left the game. Picked things up for him. I think Aaron Boone was probably annoyed that he had to bring in Luke Weaver for, 2 pitches? Because that's happened a couple of times this season now where the Yankees have a lead. It looks comfortable. Then someone in the bullpen makes it look not so comfortable. This time it was Ian Hamilton giving up the 2-run home run to Jonah Heim. And then who hit the triple? I can't remember who hit the triple, but someone hit a triple and things were unraveling. And, you know, you don't want to be up 5-0 in a game and have it become a sweaty 5-4 game in the top of the ninth. So they had to bring in Weaver, but Weaver's been unbelievable so far this season. But again, I don't think Boone wanted to do that. No. So good game overall. Top story, Will Warren putting things together. I'm looking forward to his next start because he has the stuff. Ben Rice was talking about this in his post-game interview last night, where he was talking about, I think Meredith had asked him, you know, you were with Will Warren in the minors, you know, have you seen him pitch like this? And he said he's always had the stuff. And it's just nice to see him putting it together at this level. And it is. It's nice for him. It's nice for us. It's nice for the Yankees. They keep winning. It's great. All right. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in our description. You'll get texts from us. You can text us questions, comments, reactions to trades and signings. We send out the lineups during the season, roster moves, and breaking news, so you don't have to check social media. We also have one-on-one conversations when games are happening. It's a fun time. There's a 14-day free trial. All right, coming up, we have some injury updates for you, including what's happening with Jazz Chisholm Jr. and Giancarlo Stanton next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on online shopping. Now I budget a lot smarter and I save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is even smoother than ever. You can track shared accounts, personal accounts, and set goals and stay on the same page without any stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. We have a new way for you to leave questions for Fan Mail Friday on YouTube. You go to our channel, you click on posts, and you'll see where I tell you where to leave the questions and what time the deadline is. This week, it's Thursday at 5 p.m., so get them in as soon as you can. Okay, here are some injury updates. There are a lot of injury updates because the Yankees have a lot of injured players. Some of them you may have forgotten about. I mentioned on Monday that JT Brubaker, who is coming back from fracturing his ribs, he's rehabbing with Hudson Valley for now. He doesn't really have any options, so he kind of has to come up to the Yankees. So we'll see what happens with that. His expected return is possibly June, but I'm assuming it's going to be June because he's already at Hudson Valley and he's just going to work his way back up. Jake Cousins, if you remember him from the bullpen, he had a right forearm strain and he was shut down from throwing for 4 to 5 days. This happened on May 17th. So that's a few days ago. He experienced right pectoral discomfort after a live batting practice session. Now, they did imaging. They didn't see any significant concerns with him. They're hoping he's back by June. Because, you forget about some of these bullpen guys that they have. Tyler Matzik elected to go free agent because he made it through waivers, and I believe the Yankees designated him for assignment, and now he's testing the free agent waters, just in case you guys didn't know about that. Giancarlo Stanton, the torn tendons in both elbows. I still don't know how he did that and how he hit the way he hit in the playoffs last year. He's continued to run on the field and hit off a high-velocity machine, I guess that traject machine. There's no set date for him to begin a minor league rehab assignment. Aaron Boone said last week that his rehab's probably going to look different than everyone else's because he doesn't need to play the field. So he might not even really rehab. He might actually just go into the lineup. They're thinking his possible return is late May, early June. Guess what? It's May 21st. That's nearly late May. So Stanton's on his way back soon. Oswaldo Cabrera had the operation on his ankle or surgery on his ankle. He's probably going to be out the rest of the year. He also had ligament damage. Obviously, you saw what his foot looked like after he twisted and fractured that left ankle. So they had to fix the ligaments, I guess, fuse the fracture together. I don't know how the fracture was, but he's going to be out the rest of the year. There's no way he's coming back from that. I know people have been referencing Jabba Chamberlain's trampoline injury. He was just a freak of nature. I don't know how he came back from that injury. From what they were saying, the severity of that injury was the fact that he came back as soon as he did was incredible, but I don't see that for Oswaldo Cabrera. Speaking as someone who broke their own foot, ankle, also left foot, I did that 30 years ago in college. My ligaments tore off the bottom of my ankle and my foot still isn't the same 30 years later. So got to be careful with that kind of stuff. Marcus Stroman, left knee inflammation. He's been dealing with persistent discomfort in that knee. He has had to have multiple cortisone injections, though the imaging has not shown any structural damage. And he was supposed to come back this month. I don't think that's happening. The fact that he's still feeling pain, but they're not finding anything is kind of, I guess it's kind of strange. Your knee has a lot of different parts. And there are a lot of different things that can be wrong with your knees. And the fact that he's had to have multiple cortisone injections and that they're not helping, that seems bad to me. Let me know if you think that also seems bad. Jazz Chisholm Jr. coming back from his right oblique strain. He's been hitting off a tee, and he's been running at approximately 60 to 70%. Chisholm actually revealed that he's dealing with 3 separate tears in his oblique. That doesn't sound fun, but he hopes to beat the initial timetable given, which is possibly coming back in June. I'm sure, when they say tears, they're not huge tears because, honestly, you're constantly tearing, you're making small tears in your muscles when you're bodybuilding and doing strength training and stuff. So I'm assuming the tears he means are not that big because if they were, he wouldn't be coming back in June. He'd be out for a much longer time. So it'd be good to get him back. Right now, DJ LeMahieu's doing fine in his position, making some good plays at second base. I have to give DJ some credit because we always joke about DJ LeMahieu being baseball old, but it's not that easy to be a 6'4" second baseman when you're 35 and having to, get on your knees and dive and make plays. And he's been doing a serviceable job. So I will give DJ LeMahieu his props. Next up on the injury list, because it keeps going and going, Luis Gil, right lat strain, still on track in his throwing program. This was as of last week. They're targeting a return to the mound in 2 to 3 weeks. That's huge. No offense to Ryan Yarbrough, who'll be pitching tonight. We'll go into that in segment 3. But I'd feel a little more comfortable with Luis Gil in the rotation. And think of this. Max Fried, I'm not doing in order. Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, Will Warren, the way they're all pitching now, and Luis Gil coming back and being maybe 90% of what Luis Gil was in 2024. That's a solid rotation. Even without Garrett Cole, that is a solid rotation, especially with what Max Fried has been doing. So let's all cross our fingers, light some sage, do some, I don't know, some sort of ceremonies, and make sure that Luis Gil comes back healthy and okay, and that he doesn't have any more setbacks. Because that's always the key when guys are rehabbing. You don't want to hear about setbacks. And so far, there was just that one, but it wasn't really because he was actually ahead of time. So the setback put him back to the normal time that he was going to return. So he's okay for now. Because, does anyone else have some kind of I don't want to say PTSD because, PTSD is a real thing. But does anyone else feel like a little leery when you hear about pitchers coming back just because so many pitchers that the Yankees have had in the past have had setbacks when they're rehabbing, like Luis Severino? Luis Severino would have like a shoulder problem. Then he'd have an oblique problem. Then he'd do something to a hip or something like that. And so far, that hasn't happened with Luis Gil. And finally, Scott Effross. I mentioned him on Monday, left hamstring strain. He's currently rehabbing with AA Somerset. And as I reported on Monday, he's looked a little iffy. I haven't looked at recent games, but over the weekend, he looked iffy. He gave up 2 runs in an inning. But I guess with Effross, he's one of those guys where he's coming back from something and then he injures something else. So I think the results aren't as important with Scott Effross as it is for other guys. With him, I believe health is more important, if that makes sense. How I always talk, if you're an everydayer, I always mention this. And if you've been watching the show as long as I've been hosting it, I talk about this during spring training. But for a lot of those guys, we care about if they stay healthy. I don't care if a guy gives up 5 home runs. As long as his elbow is intact, it's fine. He's just working on things. And I think Scott Effross is possibly working on things and just making sure that he's staying healthy. His possible return is June. So the Yankees the bullpen has backup enforcements arriving soon. The rotation has one coming. The lineup has a couple of guys possibly coming back soon. And the Yankees are already doing really well. So this is good stuff for the Yankees. All right, coming up, we're going to preview Game 2 between the Yankees and the Rangers. Wednesday night, it's Ryan Yarbrough against Jacob deGrom on Amazon Prime Video. Now, when we did the preview for this, was it Rodon in this spot? Or am I misremembering things? Because I was kind of shocked when I saw Yarbrough there, and I thought, was he supposed to pitch against deGrom? I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be Rodon, and I guess they pushed Rodon back. They did. They pushed him back to Thursday. So deGrom is doing really well this year. He's 4-1 with a 2.29 ERA. He has a 1.50 ERA in his last 3 appearances, and he has 20 strikeouts compared to 4 walks in those last 3 appearances. That is not good for the Yankees offense, let's just say. Although in the past, with different lineups, the Yankees always seem to have gotten to deGrom when he was on the Mets, which was really weird. Not like they, it wasn't like they would hit like 5 home runs against him, right? No, that wasn't him that one time. Someone in the comments, let me know, because there was a game where they did really well against someone on the Mets. Was it him? Anyway, it always felt like the Yankees going into a Subway Series, when you saw DeGrom on the schedule, you thought, oh no. And then the Yankees would end up being okay against him. So you never know. This might be one of those reverse lock games where you're thinking, oh God, Jacob DeGrom's coming in. He's 4-1 with a 2.29. He's, striking everyone out. And then the Yankees hit him. Because that's the thing about baseball. You can't predict it. You see a guy with a 5 ERA coming in, you think, oh, the Yankees this is going to be a cakewalk. And then they get shut out, or, they get like 3 hits and can't score a run against the guy. So you never know how it's going to go. Now, Yarbrough, let's talk about him, because he has been doing a serviceable job in a spot that no one expected him to be in because of Stroman's injury, because of Carrasco, being sent down to Scranton, because no one was really expecting Carrasco to stay in the rotation either. And the thing about Yarbrough is he is not a hard thrower at all, which kind of helps him, because everyone else throws so hard in baseball that when you're throwing 86, 88 miles an hour, guys can't really catch up to it. They don't hit it well. And of course, now that I'm saying this, he's going to give up like 3 home runs. So if he does, I apologize to him for jinxing him. Maybe not. And then Thursday's game, which we'll preview more in depth on Thursday's show. But Thursday's game Thursday's show, I think we're doing Thursday's show after the game, because the game is at 12:35 on Thursday. I think that's what we're doing. I might be wrong, but I might be right about that. I'll let you guys know. We'll let you guys know in a note on YouTube, and we'll let the insiders know in a text what we're doing with Thursday, because the 12:35 start kind of throws everything off. So Carlos Rodon, 5-3 with a 3.17 ERA against Nate Eovaldi, who's 4-2. Get this, a 1.61 ERA. Now that's frightening. That's frightening. That's an amazing ERA. That's like, Max Fried numbers for Nate Eovaldi. We'll see how the Yankees do with that. Is there anyone in the comments who would like to say anything about what's going on with the Yankees? Like, how do you feel about how they're doing so far? Because they're doing great. Luckily for them, they have a nice cushion in the AL East right now. The weekend helped, but the last couple of nights, the Mets haven't helped at all because they've lost to Boston twice. That was kind of a crazy game. People getting thrown out of the game, and things were happening in that game. Even in our game last night, Bruce Bochy got thrown out because of, I guess, calls that weren't going their way. It's just a crazy time in MLB. But yeah, right now the Yankees are looking really well in the AL East. Pleasantly surprised, because honestly, going back to the rotation, when you think about what this rotation was supposed to look like and what it has ended up looking like, could you have predicted this? I mean, you couldn't have predicted Paul Goldschmidt hitting as well as he's hitting. You couldn't predict Aaron Judge still hitting 400 towards the end of May now at this point. Philip is asking me, is there an inner child of yours that feels bad for Soto? I said it yesterday. There's a part of me that feels bad for him just because, he's been in the league so long that people don't realize how 26 is young. I know when you're at that age, you don't think it's young, but when you're like me and you're well beyond 26, you realize how young 26 is. And the pressure of signing a big contract like that, or having to sign a big contract like that, and having the choices of Yankees, Mets, and having people in your ear and thinking to yourself what you want to do, but then thinking about having to please your family. But I'm glad you brought this up, because I thought about this after yesterday's live stream and I was mad at myself for not bringing this up during yesterday's show. So let's discuss it now because we have some time. Do you remember how well Juan Soto started out with the Yankees in that series in Houston? He had clutch hits. He threw people out at the plate. He looked really happy. He just looked joyful playing the game. And no offense to the Mets and their fans, but I think the pressure, I don't know if he realized what the pressure was going to be like to have that contract. Because signing it is one thing, right? but then being in the middle of it and being the guy, like he probably thought to himself, I'd like to have the spotlight. I want to be the number one guy on the team. I want the money. I want everyone to like look at me, right? He started off this year not as strong. He's picked it up recently, but his start was slow compared to 2024. And I think his comfort level was a lot higher when he was traded to the Yankees. There was less, it's weird. There was less pressure on him in his walk year than there is now that he's signed that big contract and he's the number one guy. He's the highest paid player. He's the one that everyone's looking at. He's the one that is supposed to lead the Mets to the promised land. And he didn't start off well. And he didn't look that comfortable. And he's not being like Juan Soto. And you saw it in the series against the Yankees. You saw how happy he was to say hi to everyone from the Yankees. And you saw it in the first game where, you know, he tipped his helmet and was joking around with the fans. But after a while, it got to him. It clearly got to him. By Sunday night, he had had enough. Because could you imagine having 3 different sets of nearly 50,000 people, not all of them, but the majority of them, chanting at you, booing at you, saying the F word to you, you know, like it gets to be a lot. And well, yes, David says pressure for Soto. How? He's 26 and never has to work again and has more money than all except the most elites will have. He can hit 120 for the rest of his career and gets paid regardless. Sure, but when you have that kind of contract, there is pressure behind it, and some guys have folded under that pressure of a big contract, and other guys have risen to the occasion. It's really early. It's not even June. It's not even June. He obviously has a lot of time to turn it around and get things going and help the Mets. They're just in a little bit of a funk now that they've lost 2 out of 3 to the Yankees and have lost 2 out of 3 right now to the Red Sox. But yes, of course there's pressure. I don't even make $800 million. I feel pressure during a day. Everyone feels pressure. So could you imagine being Juan Soto? The pressure must be enormous, right? Philip's follow-up is, how do you think he really needs to adjust? Perhaps a 2029 reunion. Well, I think the big mistake that he made, honestly, was when he came out and talked about how, what did he say? How much easier it was when Judge was behind him in the lineup, or how much better it was to have Judge in the lineup with him and have the best player, the best hitter in baseball behind you. And I don't think he meant it as a dig toward Pete Alonso, but it felt like a dig towards Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso is a solid player. He hits a lot of home runs. It's not like he was going to a Mets team that didn't have an offense. I mean, they made it to the NLCS. So I don't know what he was thinking coming out and saying something like that. So Juan Soto hasn't really helped himself at all. It seemed like he was better with the media when he was with the Yankees, again, because he was not the number one guy. Judge was the number one guy. And I think he didn't realize how much better it would be for him if he was just with Judge. Because like I said on yesterday's show, Judge just turned 33. So what does he have? 6 years left? 7 years left, if that? And then if Soto was signed for 15 years, he'd have all those years after that to be the number one guy. Or if Judge starts to not hit as much, Soto could elevate himself up to being the number one guy. Soto is 26 years old. He's not even in his prime yet, which is a scary thing to think about. He can get even better than what he is right now because he's already good. He's just going through a little bit of a funk. I think things are just not working out the way he thought they would, because that's how life is. Does everything always work out the way you think it is? No, never does for me. So I just think things will get better for him. I mean, you know, I had a friend texting me the other night and he was joking about, you know, I think, what did he say? He said something like, oh, do you think the Mets could give the Soto back to the Yankees? Like, or do you think they want to give Soto back to the Yankees? And no, I don't think so. I think things will be fine. It's just a rough patch. He just had a rough start. And I think we'll see how he's doing in July. If things are still not great, if he's still not really Juan Soto and he kind of falls back a little bit, then there may be an issue. But I think for now, it's just a bit of a slump for him. And just a lot of stuff happening. And yes, there is pressure on him because money isn't everything. Some people like to think that money is everything, but money isn't everything. And money actually brings more stress to your life when you have more of it. All right. Well, thank you guys for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long, you get local analysis on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So that'll do it for this live edition of Locked On Yankees. As I said, I'm not sure what we're doing with tomorrow's show yet because of the weird game time. We might do it after the game. So be on the lookout for that. I will leave a note and let you guys know. So again, thank you for joining me. That'll do it for this live edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias, and I will see you tomorrow.